Hello and welcome to Crucible of Worlds for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're going back to a favourite of mine, and that is the Monowhite Painter deck, also known as Plumber. If you're not familiar with the deck, it's essentially Grindstone and Painter's Servant. It gives you a combo where you can mill out your whole opponent's deck with just these two cards. Pretty straightforward, and we have a load of white stuff to sort of grease the wheels. So we've got Oswald Fiddlebender and Ingenious Smith. These can help us find the artifacts we need and also give us access to a few spicy singletons in the form of Crucible of Worlds, Ensnaring Bridge. We've got a couple of portable holes that we can tutor up for removal. We've got a bunch of Urza Saga targets from Hope of Ghirapur, Pithing Needle, Shadowspear, Soulguide Lantern, and a Mox Opal. And we've got some utility lands to go with the fact that we're running Crucibles. We've got Wasteland, Urza Saga, Horizon Canopy, Eiganjo. We've got a couple of Karakas because we're in white. Now, the way this differs from the last time I played is we're running a spicy one-of in Lightning Greaves. So this card has seen a little bit of uptick in Painter recently with a few people trying out in the mono-red Painter list. I wanted to try it out here. So what is it actually doing for us, you may ask? Well, we have Oswald Fiddlebender, who is our John Travolta of our deck, if you will, for the Grease Lightning meme. So he's going to be getting the Lightning Greaves, and he's going to be tapping as early as turn 3 and going and finding us all sorts of lovely bits and pieces we need. But also we can just use it to stick it on a big Urza Saga construct and go to town with it that way. We can also give our Mother of Runes Shroud, so we don't have to worry about holding up for itself, if you know what I mean. So it's going to be very hard for them to ever deal with Mother of Runes. It's like just an extra level of protection. Obviously, just sticking it on our Painter so we can score our combo is very important. And it's a one-of, which means we can find it with the Oswald Fiddlebender to stick on our Painter's Servant and make sure that they're not going to be able to remove it. So it's got quite a lot of utility in here. What we've cut to fit it in off of the last list I played was one of the Source of Plowshares has moved to the sideboard, which means we've also gone down to 3 Hushbringer because I've been seeing a little bit less initiative the last week or so. So I thought we could go down to 3 of those and try that one out. The rest of the sideboard is the same as it was before. So you've got 4 Leylines, a couple of Marches, Plows to round out the full set in our 75, and 2 Deafening Silence for like the really fast turn 1 combo decks, or, you know, Storm, or anything that's going to be trying to just kill us in the early turns of the game before we can do our combo. And that's pretty much it. I don't think we've got much more to say about this. We just want to jump right into it. Last time we did play the Ensnaring Bridge, which was something that's been in and out of this deck list a while, and it felt really good. So I'm happy to have it in again for another run. All right. Just before we jump into a league, let me just say, like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and help me out, so why not do it? All right, let's jump into a league with Grease Lightning Painter, I guess, is what we're calling it. We've lost the die roll. Our hand is not great. We have protection. We don't have either half of our combo. We have a Crucible of Worlds, nothing to go with it. Obviously, if we can draw a Wasteland or a Urza Saga, we're probably all right. We do get another draw step on this. We have a basic. We have a little bit of removal. This is very, very low end of what I think is keepable, but I think we're going to keep it. Our opponent kept 7 as well. Okay, a Volcanic Island eventually. So that suggests to me that our opponent might be on Delver. So we have 2 options here. We're definitely playing out our basic. So, well, we've got 3 options here. We got the Vial, we got the Sentinel, and we got the Mother of Runes. I think the Vial has the highest upside, and we want to get that down sooner, so we're going to play this. If it forces the days off our opponent, at least they haven't played a threat this turn anyway. So it's just going to reset the game, but with us having planes in play. Sure. Now, if they'd have played a Dragon's Rage Channeler or something, then on their turn 1, then this would be a lot worse for us because it would mean they'd be getting Surveils off of this and they can start applying pressure. Okay, a Ponder from our opponent. I think the sequencing for the second turn is probably playing out the Esper Sentinel first. That way, if they have a daze for our Mother of Runes, we get a card out of it. Okay. So we've assembled some little creatures. We still need some real payoffs for our deck here, but we can remove a creature, like a small creature, like this, for example. And we have the Canonist as well. Okay, so this is a relatively useful payoff. So then we'll play out the Karakas, and we'll try for a portable hold to get this Dragon's Rage Channeler off the board. A Force of Will. Sure, they're going to pay. They put Ponder into their graveyard, and they're paying for the Esper Sentinel tax. So we do not get to do that. We can attack with our Esper Sentinel. If they want to trade a Mom activation for a Dragon's Rage Channeler, I will happily take that. So now I have 2 choices. We can play out the Canonist, or we can play out the Fiddlebender. The Canonist is going to make things like Expressive Iteration really bad for them. Well, not necessarily really bad, but it's only going to weaken it because they're not going to be able to play any spells off of it. Okay, they've got Wasteland, so we might lose our Karakas. That's fine. We're not really using Karakas in this matchup. Right, a basic plains. So we're just going to go to attacks with our 2 guys here. So we've got here instant, sorcery, land. I think this is a safe attack. So I think our opponent might have a spell here. Do I think they have a force or a daze though? If I think they have a daze, I should play out this Fiddlebender. If I think they have a force, I should play out the Crucible. I think the Crucible is going to be a bait spell, and we'll see what we can get off of it here. At the moment, this doesn't do anything, so it'd be quite a nice thing for them to waste resources on. Wow, they're just pyroblasting this. Interesting. This is the only spell they get for the turn as well. Feels like our opponent is just trying to fill up their graveyard from Murktide region here, which is going to be something that's a little bit challenging for us to deal with, but we can play an Oswald, and the turn after we can use the Oswald to get an Ensnaring Bridge, and that should be very difficult for them to answer. Saga Lantern, a little bit late, truth be told. Got 1 card in hand, so we can play around a daze here. Just get the Fiddlebender. Now we'll play this one out. So next turn we can upcycle the Canonist into the Ensnaring Bridge. Play out our Karakas, which can protect our Fiddlebender, or can just draw us a card off the Lantern if we want a card. We're going to take a hit for 8 this turn, possibly more if they can string a... Well, they're probably going to struggle to string a bunch of things together here because of the Canonist. So they can get land in their graveyard, and they can get 2 other things in, so they're not going to be hitting us for... Unless, well, if they draw a Mox, not Mox, a Mishra's Bauble, they can give us Delirium, but we've gone past that now, so we don't need to crack this yet. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. We play this out, sacrifice our Canonist. Get ourselves an Ensnaring Bridge, hopefully turtle up behind. I think we just passed the turn here. And then over the course of 2 turns, we can go and fish out Painter and Grindstone because we have a 0-drop in Ancient Den. Like, Petty Theft is pretty bad for us here, especially since we've allowed them to multi-spell now because we don't have the Canonist, but I think if we don't get the bridge there, we just lose. They have the Petty Theft. It's pretty bad for us. So if they have a Lightning Bolt, they can kill us. So it might be in getting Hope of Ghirapur territory soon just to block with. Okay, so if this finds the right creature, if this finds the right thing on top of their library, then we're dead this turn because they have lethal damage here. Okay, Expressive Iteration. So this does not have flying. Mystic Sanctuary. Sure, so they're just going to put the Lightning Bolt on top. That is going to be a problem for us, isn't it? How do we navigate this one? We have to exile our opponent's graveyard so they don't get the Lightning Bolt next turn. That makes a Murktide bigger, doesn't it? 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, they had us coming and going there, didn't they? Lightning Bolt has us dead next turn, so we would have got 1 more draw step, I guess. No, they've just delved us pretty hard there. Okay, but we get some reasonable sideboarding here. The Leyline of the Void is pretty good against Delver, and these plows are going to do some work too. What do we not require? I don't really like Portable Hole very much from the sideboard, post board. Keep 1 just to tutor for, but the problem is if they're bringing in Meltdowns and Brotherhood's End, you're just going to look a bit foolish. I think this is probably where we trim down on combo. So we're getting rid of a couple of Grindstones and a Painter here. Get rid of 2. We probably need to keep 2 Painters in actually. We've got the Lightning Greaves. The Hope of Ghirapur. I'm just not convinced it's where I want to be in this matchup. You can set up like a loop where you bounce it with Karakas and you just maintain a guy that can block every turn. But I think we're just trying to leyline our opponent's guys instead. Probably want to shave on the Mox because we're probably not looking at getting that with an Urza Saga anyway. I do like the Crucible of Worlds still as just like a nice top end thing to do. So we've got to cut 1 of these. I think it's probably an Aether Vial here because if I'm my opponent, I'm boarding out most of my counter magic here and just playing removal spells because they get to play any additional removal spells and any artifact take. That just feels way better than having counter spells in. Now they're probably going to have some number of counter spells in, but okay, what does this do? This stops the Murktide region. It gives us a Sentinel and lets us play an Urza Saga game, and lets us stop the Wasteland as well. So that seems good to me. Opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. So we get the Sentinel down. So if they want to make a 1-drop that isn't a creature, we get a card out of it. The next turn we can play Pithing Needle and Soulguide Lantern. We want to Pithing Needle Wastelands here, so our Urza Saga gets to do its thing. A Dragon's Rage Channeler, sure. So I want to play this one around days because the Urza Saga is how we're going to win the game. And I don't know if this is worth a counterspell from our opponent. Doesn't look like it is. Okay. Do I want to trade my Sentinel for a Channeler? Probably make that trade. they agree that that's not a trade they want to make. Sure. This could flip next turn anyway. So we can set up Crucible of Worlds lock. Crucible of Worlds as a Saga coming up soon. Okay, so there's a Wasteland that we Pithing Needle. That's a pretty good spot for us to be in. Brotherhood's End will cause us a lot of damage. But we get to make some large creatures in the meantime. I don't mind trading this off for one of their threats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm making a 5/5 that's going to attack as a 7/7. So Brotherhood's End is kind of where it needs to be for them. Okay, they're brainstorming their upkeep just to try and flip their Delver. They left a card on top, which is always worrying when that happens. This can't be a Brotherhood's End this turn at least. Ponder, sure. So they're going to come in for 4, but we're going to come in for a lot more. Okay, they're leaving their Dragon's Rage Channeler back to block. Interesting. The Leyline of the Void not looking great right about now. I think we get a Shadowspear here. Play our land. We'll go to attacks. Happy to send these both in. They can't generate a Murktide. The one thing we have to dodge now is Brotherhood's End. If we get another land, we can play Crucible and do all that. Meltdown. It's a pretty good one. Well, let's get the card off of this first and then see what they surveil. An Aether Vial, sure. Surveil. It didn't put anything in the graveyard. In that case, I think this is going to be drawing a card for us, since we're losing all of these. Yikes. Okay. Sideboard cards are good. It looks like it destroyed a lot, but... well, it did, to be honest, but it could have been worse. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to deploy as a Saga Crucible plan here. We don't get the Shadowspear now either, which is going to cause us trouble. And they do have a Wasteland they can deploy onto our Urza Saga, which is why they're not cracking it now for the Horizon Canopy. So we're gonna struggle a lot, I think, here. And these Leylines are looking pretty bad right now. Okay, they're just Wasteland the Horizon Canopy. Interesting. I guess they assume they're just going to be able to race the Urza Saga, which I think is a relatively safe assumption, given that they've got a lot of damage on board. So what do we need here? Probably not that. I think we have to play this one out and then draw a card from it. And then probably conceding the game unless we draw a Plow. That would have been the thing that could buy us a turn. 3, 4, 5. So if this flips, we're just dead here. If it doesn't flip, we can at least block. Yeah, we're in a real spot of bother here. Yeah. So we can block this and then we die. Sure, sometimes you're going to get Delvered. Like, Delver has been the best deck in Legacy for a long time now. And it's going to get some bans probably quite soon, I imagine. Possibly with the new set coming out. So you can't feel too bad about losing to it. Generally, the matchup for White Painter against Delver is slightly favoured in the white player's favour, but not a huge amount. It's not as much as like D&T is. And the thing is, the ceiling of Delver in any matchup is really high because they have so much filtering and they have all the tools that can beat any matchup. And sometimes they're just going to line up nicely. Like if they don't have Meltdown there, they lose this game very easily. But they have the Meltdown and it completely flips it, which is why like when 8cast first came around, it was smashing Delver apart. And then they started running Meltdowns, and now 8cast is sort of like a lower tier deck now. All right, let's go on to round 2. We're on the play for round 2. This hand looks pretty tasty to me. We've got an Esper Sentinel into Urza Saga Oswald plan. So I'm going to say keep this one and lead out on the Sentinel. We can jam another Sentinel and turn on a Mox Opal next turn as well. Oh, Force of Will pitching Snapcaster Mage. All right, this is going to be a slower Controllia deck by the looks of it. Interesting. Prismatic Vista. Certainly screaming control to me right now. This is going to get them a basic island. They're probably going to ponder. There we go. So then get to turn on our Mox Opal now. We have a Portable Hole. It doesn't really do a lot. Urza Saga usually very good in these sorts of matchups. I think given how much our opponent wanted to keep our Esper Sentinel off the board, I'm going to stick another one on over the Oswald and just play the Saga game. I think next time we'll deploy the Mox Opal. No need to play it now. We can use it. We can turn it on immediately if we need to. So we can surprise our opponent with an extra burst of mana next turn. I'll play the Wasteland because it's a painless source of mana. What can I have for 2 mana? They can trade a Snapcaster Mage for an Esper Sentinel if they want to. I'd probably rather just have the Esper Sentinel in play right now. So I think we're just going to pass the turn and make an Urza Saga at their end step. Just make the largest creature we can. They've shown us that they have Snapcaster in their deck already, so there's no reason to attack into it for the 1 damage that I don't think is going to be that relevant necessarily. Ponder. And this sort of tax on our opponent is just so strong. Selves a large creature. Oh, I pressed the wrong button there and yielded. That was awkward. What I wanted to get here was the You know, we get the Pithing Needle and shut down the Prismatic Vista and try and cheese them. I think we just want to get the Soul Guide Lantern first though. I got one of these ponders. That's one thing I do prefer about paper is you can't misclick in paper. But you can certainly pass priority when you don't mean to online. So I think we play this one out. We go to attacks for 5. I don't really want to play out into a deck that's clearly going to be like a deck that has access to Supreme Verdicts. So I don't really want to play the Oswald Fiddlebender out and give us nothing when we've got a clock here. If I'd have actually made the guy, that would have been better. Now our opponent might think that we've got something we want to play around at instant speed here. So we'll see. Oh, if we'd got a Pithing Needle to nail that Vista, we'd have been laughing. Alright, so is the Supreme Verdict? Yep, exactly as predicted. If I could just stop misclicking, then I'd be great at this game, right? Do we want to... I don't think we need to draw a card with Saga Land. We've already got action in hand right now. Okay, that's pretty good action. Let's play out this first. It turns on our Mox Opal. Land. So we have a 0 drop here, so this can turn into a thing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need one other mana. So we can play out the Painter's Servant now, but it doesn't get exposed to removal if we do that. I think we can just hold out for next turn. Because if we draw a land, then we're fine. And we're not in a super rush to close this game. Okay, a Mountains. This could be a Blood Moon deck. Another Supreme Verdict. Okay, pretty glad we didn't play out the Painter's Servant there. So this is going to shut off our Mox Opal, which really disincentivizes us from cracking this Horizon Canopy just yet. A Canonist. So out comes a Canonist. This is like an old-fashioned sort of like Jeskai control deck here. I think we will play this one out. If they've got another Supreme Verdict, fine. Like they can't Snapcaster it back because of our Soul Guide Lantern anyway. So we have a choice here of what we name. If we name blue, we certainly help them out with some of the things. They might have Solitudes, they don't want to name white. Unlikely they're going to have anything for red, but I don't think we need to risk it. Now, there's a very slim chance they have something that interacts, like some sort of snuff out or something. It's incredibly unlikely, but I'm going to name black anyway. There's not really a difference between naming black or green here, and if they show us another colour and snuff out, it'd be incredibly surprising to me, but it's free for us to play around it. I'll be amazed if they had any more colours than what they're representing though. This feels like our opponent's trying to bait us in with a Snapcaster. Can I afford to wait around? I think we're fine just poking for 1 here. And then we can draw a card with this. Okay, probably could have done with drawing that first. I think we're just going to hold up our mana right now. We can use a Wasteland. Sure, that seems fine. So that's 10 their Snapcasters back on in one way, but we still have the Soul Guide Lantern to cover them the other way. Narset Parter Veils. If we wanted to draw a card with the Soul Guide Lantern, we had to do that in response, but I think we just have to let this guy hit play. This little creature, or not creature, Planeswalker. Let's see what they reveal. A Ponder. Okay. Pretty straightforward. So our Wasteland's not looking great in this matchup, but recurring Urza Saga versus this opponent's probably going to be quite useful. Urza Saga. Sure. I think we'll play that second main phase. So this is going to attack the Narset just to deny them a card. Or as Modo seems to think it is, attacking me because of the weird prompts on that one. Right, let's see. So they don't get another card out of the Narset. And then we play our Urza Saga. And we can start making some large creatures. Our opponent will be on a much lower lifestyle if we didn't misclick before. With our passing through when we had our Saga on the stack. Prismatic ending on our Painter's Servant. Sure. The Urza Saga represents the Painter's Servant, killing them in a few turns, so pretty reasonable. I think we play out land, and then we pass. Our opponent's turn will make an Urza Saga construct. Then on tap make another Urza Saga construct. And we can continue this little merry dance. We can get a Pithing Needle for a Planeswalker. We can get a Hope of Ghirapur as... Okay, so this is something I would like to deal with. So this is going to bounce our Urza Saga most likely, so we don't get to return up to. I'm not targeting anything according to the interface here. Sure. Because this is it can bounce enchantment, so it can bounce the Urza Saga. Now we still get a guy if that happens, so it's probably not best for them. Right, let's just make it a construct here. Let's not misclick and just get the construct here as well. And we can tutor for... What do we want here, realistically? I don't mind the Aether Vial, but it feels like it's a bit late for that. I think we will take the Grindstone and give him the fear. So we can equip this to this guy. Dress down. So we're losing all of our little guys. That's a very sorry state of affairs. But we can cast out our Mother of Runes. We can't equip it this turn. Next turn we can start manually grinding our opponent. because we got their graveyard covered, we're not going to be giving them free value. And if they don't have a win condition, which I imagine the win conditions in their deck are very few and far between. Prismatic Ending on the Mother of Runes. Sure. Away it goes. Might be on the old manual grind now. Do play out our Ancient Den. I think it's still worth playing out here. We can't really deal with the Teferi right now, which is not ideal. I don't think we want to sacrifice the Soulguide Lantern yet, because we know that they're probably going to have some number of Snapcaster Mages in hand. I think we're just on the grinding them out manually until they represent a threat, and then we can reassess the situation. Okay, that's one of their win conditions down. And the old Wandering Emperor. Let's see if this guy resolves. I suspect this guy is not going to resolve. A Hardcast Force of Will. Sure. Carry on. We can't crack our Soulguide Lantern to draw a card in our turn anyway because of the Narset. Here we go again. Another Narset. It's not really a win condition, so bit of a swing and a miss from us there. Maybe we'll keep this one in hand now. Try and convince our opponent of something. We also get into a little weird sub-game. If they cast a Brainstorm. Okay, so they're bouncing this. So we're going to grind them in response. Force of Will. Sure. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Sure. I'm going to look at the top card of our library. They did not put it on the bottom, so we're going to be drawing wherever this card is. I see. Let's cast a Grindstone. Force of Negation. Sure. Our planes. And looking at the top card of our library, Jace. Plusing there to Teferi. Brainstorm, sure. I believe they put the card on the bottom with the Jace. Urza Saga. Pretty good one. Day's Undoing. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and draws 7 cards. So we're going to draw 0 cards here. So we have a choice. We can exile our opponent's graveyard right now and make them draw a bunch of cards that way. I think that's worth doing. Which gets us closer to decking our opponent, but again, they're probably just going to be winning with Jason Mind Sculptor soon. They should have done that in our draw step, really, because this Urza Saga actually has text and does stuff. They can bounce the Urza Saga next turn to stop us getting the shooter off of it. I guess in the off chance they have a thing, we need to maybe sandbag some cards in case we end up having to do horrible stuff around a Jace. We need to play relatively quickly here. We're eating quite a lot of our clock. Okay, look at the top card of our library. Okay, they left it on top. Not ideal for us. Plussing the Teferi. I imagine this means they have removal spells for our little lads here. Probably another Dress Down would be my guess. We have to go and get a Pithing Needle now. Have to name Jace the Mind Sculptor really here. Equip this to this guy. Swords to Plowshares. Play this guy. Hardcast Force of Will. Sure. So this needs to go up once more. It's minus 12 to pop. So we're going to need to send our construct that way. But the Teferi, was it going to bounce? It's going to bounce the Pithing Needle, and then the Jace might just bounce the construct token. And I can just play a little bit slower. No? Okay, interesting. That means they have a removal spell. So not necessarily interesting. It is what it is. Brainstorm. They're not a million miles away from being decked here. If I can win game 2, I imagine they'll struggle to win game 3. So as long as we can play sharp and quick, then we'll be okay. We can yield through this turn, can't we? We're like 2 minutes behind on clock, so we need to focus and play quickly here. Okay. Can I have my Pithing Needle here? I cannot have my Pithing Needle. Play this guy out. Go attacks. This guy attacks Jace to keep him off of ultimating us. And they plow the guy. I think that's just about enough there. Because that guy bounces, that guy does the thing, and then we're not really going to get enough time to do anything else there. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot for this matchup. Now our opponent might have something like a Blood Moon. So things like March for the Otherworldly Light might have text here. I think these are just flexible answers we can probably have over an Ensnaring Bridge. Like, we can hit the tokens that Wandering Emperor makes, so these are probably just better than some of our stuff. I think Shadowspear is not great, but fine. Mother of Runes is going to be great here, as are a lot of our blue stuff. They probably have a Karakas, so we might be inclined to trim on a Fiddlebender. That's the best we got. Unfortunately, a lot of our anti-control cards that we would normally have aren't a thing we're playing now because there's so little control around, but I'm running into it quite a lot at the moment, which is a bit unfortunate. Do you want to play an Esper Sentinel game? I think we should mulligan this and get a basic land. Okay, sure. We can keep this, bottom the Opal, say done. Oh, our opponent had to go. I'll take the win. Our hand's pretty good against control. We have this guy that is going to keep all our guys safe. We have the Ingenious Smith that's going to be able to dig us a load of cards, but they just run out of time, so we get a free win out of that one. I'm not sure how this game is going to pan out. If we can win game 2, I think we win game 3 because they're not going to be able to kill us in time. All right, let's go on to the third match. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand is looking real nice. We've got a good curve. We've got this Ingenious Smith to hopefully do us some good work. Now, we can just get blocked by combo pretty quickly, but that's what our sideboard is for. Let's at least give ourselves a chance to draw some more cards by playing out Esper Sentinel. Our opponent's thinking on this, which means that they might be... Yeah, we're getting a Force and a Ponder, so our opponent could be another control matchup. I think that's the deck that's most likely to get rid of the thing that's going to give us card advantage, because they want to be... Okay, it could just be Delver. I think it's a safe assumption it's Delver just whenever you see a Volcanic Island, because it's definitely the best deck in the format, and it's the most played deck. Now, Initiative has dropped down to, I think, like 1% below it. Actually, no, if you include both versions of Initiative, I think Initiative's still more. But Delver is the best deck, so people should be playing it. What do we got here? Which of these is the bait spell? Is it the Ingenious Smith or is it the Fiddlebender? Tricky to say, actually. I think it might be the Fiddlebender as the bait spell here. We have any artifacts, so maybe not that juicy a bait. Wow, another Force of Will. Yeah, sure, I'll take my Hymns Turak. So, turn 1 I cast Hymns Turak, turn 2 I cast Hymns Turak. Not bad for a mono-white deck. So we're way ahead of the resource game now. A Wasteland, sure, we don't need to worry about that. A Wasteland of our very own. I think we play out our Wasteland here. And we play out the Ingenious Smith. I think we're going to Wasteland their Volcanic here because of how little resources they're on. Mox Opal. Ancient Den is a little bit of a risky one, but we can just play out the Crucible next turn if you have the Ancient Den. So I'll take the Ancient Den. Let's hit their Volcanic here. So now our opponent's got Delver and whatever card they get off their board on their draw step versus our Wasteland Lock that we can assemble. Now, obviously, Wasteland Lock isn't going to do the most if we're getting beaten down for 3 each turn, but hopefully, as we play these artifacts out, we're going to boost the size of our Ingenious Smith so that we can just beat face more than them and also just have more resources to work with. So we're more likely to deploy follow-up threats, whereas our opponent is going to be pretty all in on this Delver, I would imagine. If we don't see a land here from our opponent, I'm going to be pretty happy. A Bauble. Okay. So they might find a land in the near future, we'll see. Okay, so we're going to play out Urza, Saga into Crucible here, I think. Let's see if they know the trick of Wasteland in this first. They do know the trick. The reason for doing that is then we can then follow up with an artifact of this variety. And we'll name Black in case they're playing the Grixis Splash with Snuff Out. So we have the superior clock now. So next time we can play the Ancient Den into Crucible. Mystic Sanctuary tapped. Ooh. So we'll get to cast a spell next turn, probably. Unless we draw a Wasteland here, that I would definitely fire off. Alrighty then. Get rid of this. We're going to play out a Pithing Needle here. We're going to name Scalding Tarn to really try and get them here. It's mainly to pump our Ingenious Smith, but we may as well have a chance at making their top of their deck a lot worse. Next turn, we can do the Ancient Den Crucible of Worlds, and we'll beat for 5 next turn. And turn after we beat for 6. So we are well ahead of the damage race. We're well ahead of the resource race. Okay, so they had a Volcanic and another Delver. Okay, that's certainly not nothing. An Esper Sentinel. Is that better than playing this Crucible? I don't think it is. Turn 7 and we got 5 damage. So if this flips, they might be able to get us, right? Okay, a Lightning Bolt revealed. That's certainly a problem for us. We can Wasteland them off with the Lightning Bolt, but we're going to need something to deal with these guys. A portable hole would be very nice. They can just Lightning Bolt us now, though. So what do we need here? Karakas is probably not the one we needed. We play this one out. We can play out this Esper Sentinel. They'll Lightning Bolt in response. So we don't get an additional card, but if they don't, we at least have a chance of drawing into portable hole here. Out our face, yep. And then we're dead on the backswing. Considering the situation they're in, they're definitely going to attack here. So there's no point trying to make them go through the motions. Okay, that was pretty unfortunate for us. Yeah, not much to say about that one. We had that game more or less under wraps, but not quite, I guess. So I don't like the Mox Opal here. I think the Hope of Ghirapur isn't great. I don't like having multiple portable holes because they just melt down you and get their threats back. You're in trouble. The Lightning Greaves is good to give our guys protection from their removal spells. It's kind of doing the job of Mother of Runes as well as other stuff. Probably trimming on combo a little bit here. And we got one more cut. Maybe it should be the Crucible. Is it too slow? I do like being able to slow them down in the Crucible. I think we're probably boarding it out. Slightly different to how we boarded last time. Alright. This hand plays Urza Saga and has a removal spell for that first guy. That's probably fine. I think we'll probably lead out on the Karakas here. Now, if we get Wasteland into Oblivion, then fair enough. But we've got an Urza Saga hand that beats Murktide. Okay, so we can... There's no need to snap this off now. We can snap this off in our turn and play around days. Because we're playing out the Saga this turn. And I think this is good enough to get the Plow now, because this is just going to find them all the cards I need. And when they're going to be digging for Meltdown, I'd rather they didn't have Meltdown. Looks like they're thinking about forcing this one. They force this, untap another Channeler Wasteland, then we're in trouble. Our Brainstorm has entered the Exile Zone. Sure. So their engine is up and running now, in terms of casting spells and having Dragon's Rage Channeler in play. They left the card on top, which is terrible news for us. I imagine that means it's Wasteland or something else that's just useful for them, I suppose, like another Channeler. Yeah, okay, could have been another Channeler. Mystic Sanctuary. Okay, we're not really in a position to be Wastelanding here. We need to just make our guys and hope that they don't have the Meltdown now. We can hold up Eiganjo, but I don't really think that's a winning strategy. So I think we are priced into doing this. It means that Meltdown is going to be scarier against us when the time comes, but it means our guys dodge lightning bolts. So we're trying to thread a needle here, really. So they drew a Polluted Delta off the turn because they would have played it last turn instead of the Mystic Sanctuary, unless they have a 3-drop they want to cast now, which is possible. They could have something like a True Name. Maddening Hex. That's not very good against what we're doing right now. So that's fine by me. Our plan is Urza Saga, Urza Saga, Urza Saga. So these guys probably don't want to attack into our 2-2. If they'd have played this second main phase, they'd be more likely to attack, I think. Although I guess they were trying to get the Surveil off. But if they've got mana open, I'm less inclined to block, perhaps. Right, let's see if this guy does any work for us. What is the play here? We can get an Aether Vial, so we don't have to cast non-creature spells, but that's not really what this is about. I think we're in Shadowspear Town here. Now, if we get blown out by Meltdown or Brotherhood's End, then that's unfortunately the way things are. We do get to rebuy with the next one, but Brotherhood's End is going to take away a lot of our permanents. A land, okay. They're trying to catch all of our guys in one go. In for a penny, right? I don't think it's worth putting the Shadowspear on now. I think it's better to have the ability to make Urza Saga tokens. In case they have to do some sort of Meltdown, we can float off of the Ancient Dens, and then we can activate the Saga after the Meltdown's resolved. And we have a Plow in case they play some sort of Murktide. That's worth taking a hit off a Maddening Hex for. Maddening Hex is a very strange thing to bring in against us, but they probably didn't know our deck very well. Okay, a Bauble, so this is going to give them Delirium on their guy, which means they're not going to be able to block with it. Yeah, okay. And we have lethal damage coming in. So maybe that's something you want to crack on the next turn, unless you've got something really good here. In comes a Channeler. Our opponent is dead on board, so they're going to have something. Maybe they're going to have Dress Down or something and blow us out that way. That would be very sad. Why do we keep drawing the things I wouldn't have minded cheering up? Okay, they just didn't have anything. So this is the power of Urza Saga if you just get to do your thing. Alright, I don't think this Maddening Hex is going to stay in their deck. We definitely don't want Crucible on the play, on the draw, sorry. Do we want any more combo pieces? I don't think this matchup's really about trying to combo off super fast, so I think we're just going to submit like this. This hand is fine. I think we'll keep it. Also got the Lightning Greaves in for us to play with, but we're a little bit cold to Wasteland. But hopefully the Esper Sentinel can do some work here and draw us some cards. The Lightning Greaves should hopefully mess with our opponent's calculations of what they can do. And they've got Follow-Up Bauble. They did not shuffle off their Ponder, by the way, so a load of good ones coming our way. Let's try an Esper Sentinel. Okay, it resolved. So we might be able to draw some cards off of this, but I suspect the chances are they're just going to deploy a couple of threats this turn. And then they'll worry about, ooh, the Wasteland there. They could Wasteland and then threat. That would be very strong. Wasteland and no follow-up though. Not so strong. Basic planes. I think we are in casting Pithing Needle on Wasteland territory here. If they lightning bolt this, we get a card, so it's alright. Obviously a Meltdown right now is game over, but we can't play around everything. You Play with the tools you're given. I think this hand was definitely a keeper. Another Wasteland. Okay, that's good for us. Red and a 1. What is this going to be? A Meltdown. Okay, so this is the worst case scenario. That's good, isn't it? Sure, so we're going to lose all of our permanents. And they have a Wasteland for any follow-up lands we play. So I'm pretty sure we're just going to die now. Yeah, so for a while I was running a version of this deck called the Grindstone Forge, which had, instead of the Ingenious Smith, it was running Stoneforge Mystic as a way of pulling focus and just giving you a really powerful beatdown plan to like go alongside your Saga so you can really pressure your opponent's life total. And that build ran less Ancient Dens, so it didn't, yikes. Because I had less Ancient Dens, it was less vulnerable to meltdowns, but that build is just not very good in the face of initiative anymore. It was much better versus all these control-y decks. Okay, what we got here? A Maddening Hex. Why is this Maddening Hex in your deck against me? My whole hand is creatures. Basic Plains. Go on. Hook us up. Not a Basic Plains. Sure. So what are we discarding here? It's probably going to be this Canonist. At some point our opponent's going to have a threat and we're going to lose a game. But until they represent one. Okay, so there's one. Okay. Did we draw a Basic Plains? We did not draw Basic Plains. We drew a Leyline, which is looking rather bad right now. Sure. Okay, they're on the lightning bolting our face stage of things. It's not going to take them very long to kill us, so we may as well let them go for it. There are some weird scenarios where we can draw a Basic Plains and maybe play a few spells and sort of get our opponent that way. They're not representing a lot of damage just yet. Expressive Iteration. Sure, this is going to bury us a little bit. Murktide Regent has entered the exile zone. They have a land to play Murktide Regent. No. Okay, that's good for us. That's one of the things that really puts the clock on us. Basic Plains. No Basic Plains for me. Which of these is going? Probably the Lightning Greaves. We're not going to have time to mess around with Lightning Greaves. Is the Delver flipping? The Delver's not flipping. More lands. Or is it another Delver? Or is it a Murktide? Looks like a Murktide. There's the Murktide. So they've left some stuff in, so I think they might have a second Murktide on the way soon. Or they wanted to keep a selection of things in for purposes of Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we still need to draw a Basic Plains and plow this guy. Okay, step 1. Maddening Hex is actually going to do something against us. It dealt us 1 damage. They're going to counterspell our swords. They're not. Okay. So that's bought ourselves a number of turns. What that number is, I don't know. But it's bought us a number of turns. So if we draw another land, we can deploy one of our guys. We're not flipping the Delver. Incredible. There's a non-zero chance that we win this, which is incredible, to be honest. Our opponent is representing hardcast Force of Will right now. Let's play an Esper Sentinel around Maddening Hex. Will you daze it? Will you Force of Will it? Who knows? They can certainly pay, so I don't know why they would do anything with it. If we get a chance to trade this off for any of their threats, then I'm definitely taking it. If I were them, I'd just ignore that. So they're going to Mystic Sanctuary something on top. Probably Lightning Bolt. Here's a Mystic Sanctuary. Yeah, just a Lightning Bolt. So this is going to be for our face. So it's going to flip their Delver. Then they're going to attack us for 6. And then they're going to bolt us to the face. And then we're dead. Sure. Okay, so we got pretty unlucky in that game there. So yeah, like if we'd have drawn a land a little bit earlier, like our opponent hasn't really done anything here. I'm not sure why they have Maddening Hex in their deck, to be fair. But if we'd have drawn a little bit of action in terms of land, we would have been alright. If our starting land wasn't an Ancient Den, we would have been a bit better as well. We kind of had a hand that got beaten by Meltdown, but was pretty good against other stuff, and we got beaten by Meltdown. It happens sometimes. That's what happens when you play these powerful artifact decks, when like the best deck in the format has the ability to dig through its deck and find these really powerful haymakers. Alright, on to the next round. Alright, we can keep this one. We've got a curve. We've got half of our combo. We haven't managed to Painter's Grindstone anyone out yet, so... Dawson's Creep. They are an elf player that I've played against a few times, so we know what the deal is here. Ethersworn Canonist is going to be very good in this matchup, as long as I can get it down quick enough. We could Wasteland here, but then that just gives our opponent another turn, and that's another turn we don't have Canonist. So I think the correct play here is to play out our Mother of Runes, make ourselves look like Death and Taxes. I think Wasteland in there is not good enough, because they'll still have 1 mana. Oh wow, they're just glimpsing right now. Does this mean that they have a lot of stuff, or does it mean they're looking for things? Sure. Okay, that means they only have 1 forest. So the Wasteland would have been pretty good, as it turns out. They're not playing the land yet in case they draw into a Cradle. Why would Symbiote? So they can deploy enough stuff so they can just cast the natural order next turn. So our Ethersworn Canonist will look bad. This is the sort of turn that if we were on the play, we'd completely shut down with a Canonist. Nettle Sentinel. Yep, so they're going to have a lot of mana this turn. And they've got a Cradle. Yikes. This might be the turn 2 kill here, which is not really something we get to do anything about. An Elvish Visionary. So they're going to get 2 cards deeper, and they're also going to be able to do some mana because they got an untapped Nettle Sentinel as well. So they can play a 1-drop that they find. We say it untaps a Nettle Sentinel, and then gives them another 1-drop as long as it's an elf. So they can keep this chain going for a little while. Okay, they played a second Glimpse of Nature now. So let's just yield through the turn and let them enjoy themselves. So Allosaurus Shepherd can't be countered. So they have lethal damage next turn easily. It's a case of whether they kill us this turn or not. So our Ethersworn Canonist is not going to do anything against our opponent here. How are we going to be able to beat this? That is a good question. I suppose we can Wasteland the Cradle and hope they don't have another one, which is going to be pretty unlikely. Okay, we might just die this turn, actually, if they've got the Heritage Druid. Because they can make enough elves that Crater Hoof plus Dried Arbor can be lethal on its own. They can untap with Dried Arbor. Yeah, so they're pretty close to that being lethal as it is. Okay, so they've bounced the Dried Arbor, so it has to be the Crater Hoof on its own that's lethal here. So they're playing Shepherd out here. They're going to draw a load of cards. They've got 3 mana available here. So going up to... Okay, playing another Birchlaw. I think they're trying to work out if it's better for them to play another elf and use Heritage Druid or use Birchlaw Rangers for mana here. Why would Symbiote? Okay. So this bounces the Visionary, I think. Or it could bounce the Quirion Ranger. Because that lets them... sorry, not the Quirion Ranger. The yeah, it's just the Elvish Visionary you want to bounce there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so... It could be 1-drops as well, is the other one. Okay, Greenstone Zenith for 1s is probably for another Nettle Sentinel. Yep. So now they tap 2 Nettle Sentinels and an elf. And then they play a 1-mana elf and then it untaps a Nettle Sentinel. So they net 2 mana for every 1-mana elf they play, and they draw a bunch of cards. So our opponent is going to rifle through their deck and put a big Crater Hoof Behemoth into play. And then we're going to die from the damage from 1 creature, because they're going to have over 20 creatures in play by the time they pop it. It seems very hard for them to fail with 18 cards in hand. Alright, so they're drawing a bunch of cards. Another Ranger, so they're going to put all their triggers on a stack. I don't think this matchup is going to come down to the clock either way. Although sometimes when they're under a Canonist, it can take them a long time. So it doesn't hurt for us to let them play it out. And, you know, it's quite fun to see a turn 2 elf kill. It doesn't happen very often, so it's nice to see. Obviously, a little bit less nice because it's coming right in my face, but I can appreciate it at least. Okay, so casting a Crater Hoof Behemoth from hand. So how big is this guy going to be? It's going to get plus plenty. So it's going to be attacking for 23. So yeah, a turn 2 kill. We could have Wastelanded to slow them down a turn, but we were trying to just try and get the Ethersworn Canonist. The turn 2 kill is very unusual for the elf deck, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. So we've got quite a lot of cards that are good in this matchup. We're not looking to Crucible of Worlds stuff. I don't think we need these Mox Opals. Our opponent doesn't really know what we're playing, which is nice. Ensnaring Bridge is certainly going to have some text here. Aether Vial is not going to be doing us a load of good here. The Hope of Ghirapur is pretty bad. Pithing Needle has some reasonable text on it. Saga Lantern is not going to be useful here. Is the Lightning Greaves where we want to be? They're not really a removal heavy deck, so I don't think we want the Lightning Greaves. So that just gives us 2 more slots to find, so we can probably squeeze on probably Mother of Runes actually. Our opponent's not going to be that removal heavy. They might have Snuff Outs maybe as removal, but we can play around that with our Painter in terms of the 1 creature that we actually care about. So I think I'm just going to board out a couple of Mother of Runes here and just try and get our guys down and remove a few of their bits and pieces. Hushbringer plus Ingenious Smith is obviously a nombo, but we get to sequence them as we want here, potentially. We have no white mana sources, Mulligan. Okay, it's got a removal spell, and then we can dig for something. We have Wastelands for cradles and things. I think this is fine. We're probably bottoming the Eiganjo here. So done. So I think we just play out the Ancient Den first, and then we hold up Swords to Plowshares. This probably isn't a game where we're going to be Sagaing too heavily, but we'll wait and see what happens here. Misty Rainforest. Cracking Misty Rainforest for a basic forest probably. Oh, we'll buy it. Okay, that might be Thought Seizing us here. A Greenstone Zenith. So this is going to be for a Dried Arbor. So we are going to plow this Dried Arbor, and we're going to untap and we're going to Wasteland their Bayou. If we can just keep them off of starting mana, we can hopefully stem the tide. This pause in their main phase is filling me with a little bit of joy that they might not have another land. Ah, they've got a land. Okay, back over to us. Esper Sentinel, not great in this matchup either. Right, let's get into our library and see if we can find a Canonist here. Ethersworn Canonist, that's one of the ones we wanted. I will take it. So next turn we can deploy Canonist and Horizon Canopy, and then we can sit behind a bridge. Horizon Canopy, Esper Sentinel. So we can sit behind a bridge after that. Plow is welcome. Play this one out. We will play out our Canonist here. So I think we're better off ploughing now. So I think we'll attack here. I'm happy to trade this with a guy. Okay, I'm not taking it. So they're going to struggle to cast 2 spells this turn. I think we'll hold up the plough and see what happens. Could be a little bit risky letting them have the Dryad Arbor. But if they play something a little scarier, like a Heritage Druid or something, I'd like to be able to hit that. Beseiju on my Canonist. Sure. I'll go and get ourselves basic planes. A Cradle. Sure. A Glimpse of Nature. Okay, they might be about to go here. A Heritage Druid. So they got 1 card in hand. If that 1 card is an elf, am I supposed to plough the Heritage Druid? Oh, I guess they're drawing off a Glimpse as well. Yeah, I think we're supposed to plough the Heritage Druid here. It means they're going to get 3 mana though. But I think that's the best option for us. Oh, they're getting greedy with an attack with the Nettle Sentinel. Okay. Let's get rid of the Heritage Druid. Do we want a big token to try and beat down with? I don't think we do. I think we just want some mana here. What do we want here? Pithing Needle on Wirewood Symbiote feels pretty good. Or on Beseiju. Beseiju who endures. I know they run a second one in their deck usually. So this pumps our little guy here. And we'll cast this guy. Actually, is that risky? Casting that guy now. I think we probably need to just cast our Ensnaring Bridge. This stops us getting blown out by various sequences of play. And we've protected it with our Beseiju, which might be their only answer for it. Right, the Visionary, drawing a card. Cradle, tapping for a lot. Once upon a time, sure. What are you going to find? Elvish Visionary. Okay, so more cards for them. Sure. Okay, the Visionary's gone. That's our turn. So they can attack underneath the bridge and then use the Allosaurus Shepherd is the other thing they can do here. Unless I empty my hand. Do we want to attack with this Ingenious Smith? I think so. Let's have a look at the top cards of our library. Painter's Servant and a Grindstone. Interesting. If we take the Grindstone, we can empty our hand. So I'm down for that. Pump these guys. Not they're attacking anytime soon. Okay, so now they can't get us with Allosaurus Shepherd underneath now. I think it's important we empty our hand there so they can't just send a load of big guys at us. We might be able to just manually grind them out. If they've got something they can fetch with a natural order here. Trying to work out what that would be. Probably something like, I don't know actually what they could have. Reclamation Sage, I haven't seen a list for a long time, but maybe that's the thing that they could have. Natural order. Ah, they can just refuse to pay as well for the Esper Sentinel, which is a bit annoying. What are they getting with their natural order, one wonders. Collector Oof. Okay, so they're shutting off our Grindstone. Interesting. So we want to throw out our Esper Sentinel and attack with it in the hopes that it gets killed, because we don't really want this in play, weirdly. We can actually kill it ourselves with our Eiganjo. Another Grindstone. Interesting. Okay, I guess we attack with some of our guys. Attack these two, at least make our opponents think about us wanting... Oh, wait. We can't Eiganjo our own guy because our Ancient Dens don't work, right? That's annoying. That is very annoying. We have to empty our hand. So that way our opponent at least has to play a non-artifact, a non-creature spell. There's not actually that many of them in their deck, so hopefully they can't, because they can just let us draw a card, then they can attack, tap their Cradle, make all their guys huge. Yikes. Bit of a long one here. We could have put the Pithing Needle on the Allosaurus Shepherd to dodge this line. It's the only option we had. Dismember on that guy, and they're going to pay. They're not going to pay, sorry. We're going to plow our own Sentinel, so this stops happening. We have to do it in our turn because they only get 1 trigger to give us more cards. Sure. Esper Sentinel. Not very good under the Ensnaring Bridge. Not a thing that's really come up for me before. So now we need to find a removal spell for the Collector Roof. We're also in a horrible position of any other Canonists we draw are going to be a pain for the same reasons. Interesting. Maybe I should be boarding out the Canonists. If we can remove the Collector Reef, though, we can start manually grinding our opponent. And a lot of their cards are green, so we might be able to do it quicker than 15 turns. Might as well just yield through this turn. We don't have anything to do. They can make a load of mana, but they have to get rid of our Ensnaring Bridge. They want to kill us. And if they had a thing that just directly blew up Ensnaring Bridge, they would have got it with the natural order if they had a green creature. So I have to imagine it's just to beside you. Grist. Okay. Grist certainly does it. This can get enough creatures in their graveyard that when they activate the other ability of it, it kills us. Which also makes the Grindstone plan, if we can unlock it, less good. Swords to Plowshares. We're in an interesting spot here. I think we are just ploughing the Collector Reef here. It doesn't go into the graveyard, which is nice. This isn't an elf, so it can't be returned with Wildwood Symbiote. Now, we can Grindstone our opponent, but if we turn on their Grist for killing us, then that's going to be real bad. So how many creatures we've got in the graveyard right now? We got one, just the one creature right now. Okay, so maybe we don't need to Grindstone them just yet. Progenitus. Okay, they have a Progenitus in their deck. Interesting. That is something that you can eventually go around because it doesn't put the whole graveyard in, it just puts the Progenitus itself in. So what will end up happening is eventually they'll end up with a Progenitus in hand and no cards in their library. I have to imagine they've got something that they're trying to draw too if they're doing this. I'm trying to think what it could be. Because I know I've got when I played it before, they could have Force of Vigor, but they would have found one by now if they had one. They've seen half of their deck. So I have to assume they didn't board in the Force of Vigors because they didn't see all this sort of stuff in game one. They just saw regular Death and Taxes things. This plan will not work as well in the third game if there is a third game. Once upon a time, a Metal Sentinel. I'm just going to grind them, I think. I think we can grind them before this will get big enough. Hushbringer. Interesting. This is actually very good for us because it's a flyer. So it can fly over and peck at the Grist. Hold on, wait a second. The Grist blows up artifacts, right? No, it's creature or planeswalker. Okay, good. For a minute I thought we should have been dead then. We got some insects for sure. I don't think we grind here because it will cost us a life. Painter's Servant. Okay. Okay, our opponent's conceded. So we want a long grindy one and they're going to board in a load of Force of Vigors. Does that change what we're doing here? The Esper Sentinels were a real liability under Ensnaring Bridge, but Ensnaring Bridge is going to be very bad in the next game anyway. We've seen the Progenitus, so I'm kind of tempted to have this Solvo Lantern because sometimes we'll need that, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that makes or breaks the difference. We've seen the Dismembers, so maybe we want Mother of Runes over Esper Sentinels. Yeah, I think we just do that. I don't think we need to do any sort of Leyline shenanigans or anything like that. Do you want a Hope of Ghirapur as a flying threat that can go over and peck at the Grist? I don't think we're going to be able to lock our opponent out under a bridge like we did last time, purely because they're going to board in a load of Force of Vigors now. So we're kind of on the removal, Hushbringer-y type plan and then grind them out. Progenitus buys them one more turn. I don't think it's worth boarding in a sort of dead card to do that. So what do we have here? We have the Canonist we want. We have the Bridge, we have the Needle. This seems good to me. We can remove their things. Quirion Ranger, sure. Okay, so I think we hold up and see what they play. Work out which one we are ploughing. And then next turn we Hushbringer or Canonist. There's a Dryad Arbor. So we can't hit this Dryad Arbor because they can return it to untap anyway. Will not block. Do you want to plough this? Or do you want to take the 1 damage? I think it's worth taking the 1 damage just to see if they play out another creature that we could plough instead. Okay, they did not. So we will plough this. We would like the Canonist because that stops... We saw that they can win with a Forest and a Dryad Arbor, so that's the one that stops that sort of win. A Dismember. Sure. Okay. There's one less card in their hand to go off with, though. And next time we can deploy the Hushbringer and the Pithing Needle on something, or we can deploy the Wasteland onto their Dryad Arbor, if that's the thing we want to do. Okay. Coming in for 1 damage. They got follow-up. They do. So I think we are playing this one out. And we are casting the Hushbringer. And I think we are playing Pithing Needle on Wildwood Symbiote here. Now they can play a Grist next turn and just kill our Hushbringer, which is annoying, but it's certainly not really what their game plan generally is. Okay, are we just going to get glimpsed out here? This might just be like a mini glimpse, but they could just kill us this turn as well. Clear on Ranger. Okay, it's not the one we named with the Pithing Needle, which is unfortunate. Cradle. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be enough. It won't take much from here for them to be able to kill us. Crate Hoof doesn't do it, but they can field enough stuff that they'll probably have an answer for Ensnaring Bridge that won't be able to do anything about. The Crate Hoof doesn't give all their guys massive stats, which is nice, but probably not nice enough. Their game plan of make a load of guys, attack underneath a low bridge, and pump with Gaia's Cradle is going to be enough, I would imagine. Now we can draw Plow. That certainly helps. Or a Portable Hole. Sure, so untapping the Dryad Arbor. They might just get a Progenitus here and just say, here we go, X equals 3. What is this going to be? So other versions of this deck that I've played, the Monowhite Painter has had the Grafdigger's Cage as an option, which would have been real nice. Okay, so they're doing this just so they can get in underneath our guy, underneath our bridge if we play one. Okay, so we can Wasteland their Cradle. So we have 3 options here. We can... Actually, no, we don't have 3 options because Ingenious Smith doesn't do anything, does it? So that's not an option. So I think our options are somewhat limited. I think we are into playing out a 1-1 to at least pressure. Wasteland in the Cradle. And we can either chip away at Grist for 1, or we can hold this back to block. I think we need to hold it back to block here. Okay, so our opponent is in a pretty good spot here. If they have a Cradle, then I think we lose the game. Because they just attack with some big guys. I think it's attack with 2 5/5s for a few turns until we're dead. There's a Cradle. Yep, 5, 6 on the Bayou. Make the Shepherd and the Ranger 5/5s. They both attack us. Is it worth chump blocking here? I think we have to. Let's just chump block. Save ourselves a bit of life here. We might be in play Ensnaring Bridge. Hope our opponent doesn't know they can attack under it territory right now. Which is real bad. Now, if we draw a land next turn, if we can survive this turn and draw a land next turn, we can sit up behind a bridge and hope that our opponent can't blow it up. Am I convinced that's a route to victory? No. Will it possibly buy us some more turns of the game? I hope so. Snuff out. Sure. So now our opponent pumps these, and they deal us exactly lethal here. Well, let's see if they see that they can attack under the bridge. Always give your opponent a chance to make a mistake. If they pump now and attack, they don't get to do anything. Oh, they've made a mistake here. Unless they've got a Boseiju. Okay, so they didn't know the trick here. Interesting. Alright, so we might get to play this game for a little bit longer. A Canonist. It's a 2/2, so it blocks quite nicely. It stops them doing any thing where they get to do a load of thing that they can just blow up with the Grist and just slowly beat us down with 1/1s. Although this time I imagine... let's see if they... Okay, so that's their first spell. Now they can sacrifice a guy to blow up our Canonist. Yeah. So there goes our Canonist. Let's see if they've learnt from last combat. Yeah, okay, they have. Yeah, they just made a little mistake last time. Sure. So we got done. Not going well for us today in this league. We haven't got to do anything cool with the Lightning Greaves either. But we got one more game to try and scrape a 2-3, I think, at this point. Yikes. Pretty bad league for us. We're on the play for the final round. We have a hand that does some things with Lightning Greaves. So this seems kind of cool. We have some basics. We have a curve. We're going to give it a go. Trying out the Lightning Greaves. Let's see if it helps us out. So next turn we can play the Lightning Greaves and equip to Sentinel. And then the turn after we can play and equip to Oswald. We can play the Oswald and equip it with Greaves and sack something if we want to. Mother of Runes. Sure, not particularly exciting, to be honest. Okay, we've got some options here. So you can play this out, you can play this out. Play out this Lightning Greaves, equip it to our little guy. I don't think our opponent is going to take this trade. I would take this trade if... I would love to kill their Mother of Runes. Oh wow, they're going for it. Interesting. Alright, cool. So I was going to Portable Hole if they didn't. But I'd rather have the ability to Portable Hole a Stoneforge Mystic. So that's pretty good. Not unhappy with that one. Cavern of Souls. Human. So this looks like it's going to be pretty standard Yorion D&T. Question is, can we get our Fiddlebender down? without it dying? Maybe. But it doesn't matter if it eats a removal spell because we've got another one. There's the plow. Sure. That's fine. We've got another one. I'm kind of glad to get that plow out of their hand, to be honest. Richdown Port. Doesn't really impact us too much. Thalia. This is a fine one to portable hole, but we might not even need to. So, Ingenious Smith. Okay, I'll take this one as our play to begin with. Let's see what you get for us. Painter's Servant, you say? Don't mind if I do. I'll take this Painter's Servant. We don't get to pump this turn, unfortunately, because we cannot cast this because it costs 2. And our Mox isn't online. So we could have played this out first and then use our Mox to cast our Ingenious Smith. But depending on what we hit with Ingenious Smith, that changes how we play that turn out. That's what we're looking at doing for our next turns. We can Fiddlebender the Opal into a Painter. Not Painter, a Grindstone. That's pretty good for us. I assume this style is attacking. No. Okay. I'll play this guy out because this turns on our Mox Opal. Pumps our little guy. Play Oswald Fiddlebender. Let's equip the Fiddlebender. Interesting. Okay. Let's sacrifice this Mox. Get ourselves a Grindstone. So if we draw a land next turn, we can shoot it for a Painter with our Oswald using the Esper Sentinel. Okay. Lightning Greaves doing something. And then what happens is once we've got 3 mana and Painter, we can put the Lightning Greaves onto the Painter's Servant. And if they respond, we then grind them in response. If they don't respond, then we can grind them once it has Shroud. So, kind of got it coming and going a little bit with the old Lightning Greaves. It lets you force the action, which is sometimes something that's difficult to do in the face of removal spells. And we get to do all of this before our opponent has 3 counts on their Aether Vial, which is the scary number where they get to deploy Flicker Wisp, Skyclave Apparition, that sort of jazz. Or recruiters that can then find them Solitudes, etc, etc. Still no attack from the Thalia. Interesting. Okay, so we found a Wasteland. So I think we just make the play we mentioned just now, where we sacrifice the Sentinel to go and find the Painter. And we'll name Black, why not? This pumps our Ingenious Smith. We will grind our opponent in response. A Solitude. Okay, so we're getting a lot of cards out of our opponent for this. And we have a Painter's Servant next turn as well. And we get ourselves another counter on our Ingenious Smith. We probably don't want to attack with it now. We just hold back. And then next turn, if we draw a land, we can play Oswald Fiddlebender. Sorry, not Oswald. We can play Painter's Servant and equip it. Now, our opponent does have a Richdown Port, which can mess with us. If that happens, we're going to be playing Portable Hole on their Aether Vial. So I've just ticked up their Aether Vial and passed by the looks of it. Sure. Drawing a land would be good. Did not draw a land. That means we are casting our Portable Hole on their Aether Vial. And this is going to pump our Ingenious Smith. And I think we can probably attack here. Stores to Plowshares on our Ingenious Smith, sure. That makes the decision to play this Esper Sentinel a lot easier. Because I was thinking about maybe holding up as an artifact to cast next turn to pump our Ingenious Smith, which is why we didn't play it pre-combat. Sure, you can attack with your Thalia here. Are they going to port us in our upkeep? They did not. Okay, so we'll play out this. We will cast Painter's Servant. Our creature has Shroud, our Oswald. So this comes into play. We will name Black again. We will equip this to our Painter's Servant. This is the time that they can cast a removal spell. They did not cast a removal spell. What am I missing that our opponent could have? Touch of the Spirit Realm doesn't do it here. Or anything like that. Maybe just grind our opponent out here. That way we can move the Lightning Greaves onto Fiddlebender potentially. Okay, we just get to see the whole list. Sure. So look, Timeless Dragon. Let's pop it out and have a little look. Recruiter of the Guard, Lion Sash. Nothing unusual here. They do have Touch of the Spirit Realm in their deck. Okay, good to know. And Spirit of the Labyrinth and so on and so forth. So we want to be able to kill their things. Hushbringer, pretty good against D&T. Sentinel, a little bit medium against D&T. The Aether Vials, they're good against the mana denial that D&T can put out. Hope of Ghirapur, I'm not a fan of. Saga Lantern is not necessary here. It can, like, make their Lion Sash do less, but that's pretty nothing If we're boarding in the Hushbringers, I guess we board out the Ingenious Smiths, which is a shame, because those are pretty good. The Canonists aren't great here either, to be honest. The Sentinels aren't great. Mother Runes are excellent. Portal Holes, fine. All these things. We're probably looking at this sort of configuration. Oswald is a bit awkward in the face of Karakas, but we have Lightning Greaves, so maybe it'll be okay. Maybe we're not supposed to keep in all of these Oswalds. Maybe we're supposed to have like one Ingenious Smith instead. Obviously Ingenious Smith bad with Hushbringer, but on its own is very good and kind of one of the core things we're trying to do with our deck. So it's kind of a tricky one. So what does our hand do? We have a combo, we just need some more mana. We're a bit cold to Wasteland, so we can maybe play a Pithing Needle on a Wasteland. Then we can keep this. Drawing a basic plains for our first draw would be lovely. No play from our opponent. That suggests to me they're holding up a removal spell here, so I'd rather not play the Mother Runes into it. I wouldn't mind playing the Esper Sentinel into it though, because at least that gets us a card back. Okay, please don't play a Wasteland and Wasteland us. They might see that we played a non-basic and be like, well, if they had a basic, they would probably play it out first against D&T, right? Okay. They did not play a Wasteland, they played a basic plains. Cool. Kataki is a card that our opponent might play in their deck. So we have this basic plains. What are we going to do with our basic plains? We're probably going to cast Mother of Runes. I think we'll attack, and we'll hold up a Source to Plowshares for something scary. They can't really play Thalia in the face of Karakas, which might have been why they didn't play anything last turn. There's their own Karakas. An Aether Vial, sure. So this is something we can Pithing Needle. Okay, they're letting us... we've drawn our own Aether Vial. That's actually pretty good for us as well. Awkward. Let's see what we draw. If we draw some more mana, then we might not need our Aether Vial. Interesting. I think we are on playing out Aether Vial first. I'm going to attack with the Esper Sentinel. I'm going to play out a Grindstone and give them a little bit of fear. I'm going to leave Karakas up so we can cast Plow or bounce a Legend if required. We only need our Aether Vial to get to 2. A Wasteland. Stoneforge Mystic. Sure, we'll let this go and find something. And we'll see what it finds. I think it might get a Batter Skull in this situation because our opponent doesn't have... our opponent's pretty close to having 5 mana. But we'll see. What's going to go next to their Bird Serpent? This isn't in their hand at the moment, it's still in the command zone. Cauldron complete. Okay. This means we are definitely going to plow their Stoneforge. We would like to put counter on Aether Vial, please. An Ingenious Smith is a pretty good one here. So I think we leave up the Karakas. Gives us the most amount of options. Like Portable Hole and things like that are going to be good here. An Ancient Den is just fine too. I'll take that. It's Ancient Den. Mana is definitely the thing we want. Our opponent can make a 1/1 to block with, like a Mother of Runes. I don't think that's a problem for us. So next turn we have we can put in the Painter. Then we can cast a Pithing Needle to shut down the Aether Vial. And then we can Grindstone our opponent with Mother of Runes protection. Let's see how that works out for us. Like Eiganjo. Sure. A Wasteland. Alright. So what are we doing here? I think we are playing out another Grindstone. This is going to pump our Ingenious Smith, which is then going to do an attack. We would like to attack our opponent here with these 2 creatures. Try and force something out of our opponent. We can Karakas bounce and still hold up the Grindstone. Okay, just going to take damage. If our opponent gives us a good window, we can put in our Painter and grind them. I don't really want to do it while they've got Vial and all this mana up there. Okay. They're tapping out for something. Recruiter of the Guard. I would like to activate my Aether Vial in response to this. And then I would like to try and Grindstone my opponent. Because this is just going to find another removal spell or something good. So this is the time to go, I think. Let's get our counter on our Ingenious Smith. And let's try and mill our opponent. We have Mother of Runes. So we've got 1 level of protection here. Solitude. You can have your Solitude. Where would you like to put the trigger? I would like my Mother of Runes, my Painted Servant, to get protection from white, please. Grindstone on the stack. Yay! We got him. 68 of your finest, please. What are you going to find with your Recruit of the Guard, I wonder? Probably not a great deal of things to shoot for. Alright, so we got a 2-3 there. In the end, let's have a little chat about the deck and how it went. So 2-3 is obviously a pretty bad record. We had a 4-1 with this same list with 1 slight change. We just, without the Lightning Greaves, Last week we had a 4-1 that felt pretty comfortable for quite a decent chunk of it. I think... I don't think the Lightning Greaves is why we didn't do so well. I think the Lightning Greaves, like against Delver and stuff, would have been good. I think we hit what is a relatively unfortunate level of fail rate in our deck that is built in because we're an artifact combo deck and Delver doesn't always give you a lot of time to play around things. You sometimes just die to Meltdown, and that's kind of what happened to us. And we did also get Wastelanded to Oblivion in one game. Well, we got Meltdowned and Wastelanded, so it's tricky. The Delver matchup is definitely trickier. It was easier when we had a deck that was slightly more tuned for that sort of thing instead of having to play all these things for the initiative. So we used to have another Aether Vial in the main deck, which is really good against like mana denial and counter spells, which is the Delver deck straight up. So that is definitely a shame. I kind of think maybe the Aether Vial, the Mox Opal should be an Aether Vial. Maybe that would be better. Like the Mox Opal is fine, but not stellar. It's one of those cards I keep wanting to take out of the deck. So maybe if we try this same list with a third Aether Vial, that'll help a little bit. Other than that, like Delver is a better deck than us. Delver is a better deck than every other deck in the format. It's the best deck. And you are going to lose to it sometime. And we can try and reduce the amount of times that we're going to lose to it. And normally I've been quite happy with this deck against Delver. But the last 3 games, I think, the last 3 matches I've played against Delver, I've lost, which is basically double the amount of times I've lost to Delver with this deck. And I've been playing this deck for a while now. It's really, really interesting how that's panned out there. But again, they have big sledgehammers and they can find the sledgehammers and beat you with them. I'm not really sure what the solution to that necessarily is. But I guess we just wait and see if Delver gets a banning maybe. Losing twice to Delver today makes me a little bit less happy about where we are with the Delver matchup. Other than that, I think the deck is fine. It's good. Like obviously, this wasn't the best showcase of it this league. I'm still liking Ensnaring Bridge. Ensnaring Bridge won us a game. That was very important. I think I want the Grafdigger's Cage that we used to have. I think that is just a really, really powerful tool that I would like back again for things like elves and such like. Other than that, I'm not really sure what changes I want. It's going to be like maybe 1 or 2 changes in the main deck and maybe 1 or 2 changes in the sideboard. The Lightning Greaves looked very, very good in that last round where we just got to attach it to our Oswald and just go and find our pieces, and they couldn't stop us finding pieces over and over again. And then when the time came, we put it on the Painter, and if they react, we kill them. If they don't react, we get Shroud, then we kill them. So it's kind of like down if they do, down if they don't really. So I like that as an option. It's not something we tutored for. We didn't really have a lot of games where we had Oswald around to 2 to 4 though, because we kind of got bopped by some pretty quick stuff. Like Elves and Delver are pretty fast decks, especially the Elf player that killed us on turn 2 on the play. That was pretty good for them. It was pretty fun to see a deck popping off that well. You see why Elves is one of the top like 4 decks at the moment. Not really much to say about this. The Greaves, Lightning, Oswald Fiddlebender Painter deck was fine. I would definitely run Lightning Greaves again. I think my change would probably be just a third Aether Vial for the main deck. I think that's probably where I'm going to go next time I play this, and possibly a slight tweak in the sideboard of 1 Grafdigger's Cage for a Leyline perhaps. Like the Leylines versus... So when I used to run Grindstone Forge, I was running Rest in Peace in the sideboard. Rest in Peace is much better versus Delver than Leyline the Void because it's a card that you can cast and does stuff. If you draw a card that you can't cast or do anything with against Delver, that's such a big surge of your resources just taken away. Now, a turn 1 Leyline against Delver is very good still, and it's why you still board them in, I think. It buys you so many turns, but it's not the be-all and end-all, and Rest in Peace was just kind of better, but then obviously we lost our Crucible of Worlds synergy, but boarding it out anyway, so I think Rest in Peace was good. But the problem with Rest in Peace is it's really bad versus Reanimator. It's like borderline unplayable versus Reanimator, because they do all their stuff before it comes down, and you just look a bit silly. Now, Leyline the Void, very good against Reanimator. I think last week or the week before, I basically just played against Reanimator every league I ran. So I still think the Leyline is probably where you have to be. Just to have a chance of beating Reanimator. I don't think you could beat Reanimator without Leyline of the Void. So I think you have to have that in there. And I think the way that you can win the game with Leyline of the Void in play is very good. If you watched my league last week where I ran Monowhite Painter, Leyline bought us a little bit of time and won us games, and then the what's it called? Ensnaring Bridge did the rest of the work, and that was pretty good. So I definitely like the tools we have available to us here. I don't think we need any other tools included apart from maybe the Grafdigger's Cage. Other than that, I think, yeah, I like this deck, even though this was not a very good league. I recommend playing this deck if you like the sort of things it's doing. Sometimes your cards will line up poorly with what your opponent's doing, and because we're not a blue deck, we can't really fix our hand. But some of the things we're doing are intrinsically powerful. Like, we have a really good combo kill, we have Canonist to shut stuff down, Mother of Runes is very good at blanking removal spells, Esper Sentinel can give you some real value, you know, and obviously Fiddlebender pulling out the things you need, like Wasteland locking or just Urza Sagaing. It just feels like a very strong thing you can be doing with a lot of the cards in this deck, as well as having a way of just popping off and winning the game. It's not the best deck in the format, but it's certainly a deck that you can take to a tournament, and I do regularly because I have this in foil and I think it's a really fun deck, and it's got a lot of play to it. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do these things. It doesn't cost you anything. Alright, goodbye.